Top of the morning, YouTube. Welcome to another edition of Tommy Stiles talking to a camera at a coffee shop. We're at Black Rifle Coffee Company in Phoenix, Arizona. This is where I come a lot. I've talked about it. I've filmed several videos here. It's starting to get cool enough to talk on the patio, so we're here bright and early on a Sunday morning filming. I had some things I wanted to talk about, so before I get into it, like, share, comment, subscribe, ring the bell. Let us know what you want to see, what you want to hear down in the comments below. Also, let me know where you're from. I like to know where people are at, what city, what state, what country. So today's topic, PEDs and the mental side of it. I feel like a lot of people talk about the PEDs themselves. I feel like they talk about dosing. I feel like they talk about physical side effects. I don't feel like people talk about the mental side of things. So that's just something I kind of wanted to have a chat about, put some things out there, some things I've experienced in 9 years of using them, some things I've experienced and witnessed as a coach while coaching people using PEDs. This is for entertainment purposes only. Nothing I say is me telling you what to do or telling you to do anything that might be legal or might not be. I am not a doctor. I'm not a medical professional. This is just purely entertainment. A guy on the patio talking. That's it. So now that we got that disclaimer out of the way, I am 33 years old. I started taking PEDs when I was 24. I've talked about that before. I got blood work through a hormone clinic. Actually got prescribed testosterone through that clinic because I was a firefighter at the time, and I wanted to have a script on hand. So when I first went on testosterone, for the purpose of this video, I'm going to leave doses and numbers out of it. I'm just going to talk about the compounds and the things I've noticed for myself and what I've seen others potentially notice. I'm not going to talk about things as if it's a prerequisite that you'll experience these things. Maybe you won't. But I'm not going to talk numbers. I'm not going to talk doses. I think that's all arbitrary. And I don't want people to just hear a number and then think that's what they have to do, or they can do a little bit less than that to not experience things. We're just talking about compounds and my experiences. Anyways, back to it. Testosterone, 24 years old. Who I was going into it. So I didn't really lack confidence as a man. I wouldn't say I was overly confident. I think I kind of rode the midline. No libido issues that I could recall to talk about at that time of my life as a natural. No real mood issues that were significant enough to, write home about. I was pursuing a career in the fire service. I was pretty quiet, pretty chill, loved training, mentally no issues. So getting on testosterone, I can remember just kind of a surge in my mentality. A lot more, I don't want to say aggressive, that's not the word, but a lot more assertive in my decision-making process internally. So I do feel like taking testosterone, the very first thing I ever took and the only thing I took for a long time, it created a more assertive version of myself in my mid-20s. Not only within my job, with the decisions I had to make there, but also with women, with other situations, with confidence that way. You're hearing this from me now at 260, body weight. I'm a big guy, especially in the normal world. Back then I was, struggling to get to 200 pounds, or kind of was 200 maybe at that time, but not a pretty 200. So to have that type of assertiveness and almost like animalistic presence anywhere I was at, even though I was still um, small. And I still carry that mentality that I'm small. That's not body dysmorphia. That's just, I've always looked up to the freaks and the guys that are huge, and that's where I want to go. So for my standards and what I'm pursuing, I'm always small, but I'm very self-aware that, as a guy that's 260 pounds and has my composition, I'm big in any situation that I'm in. I'm probably one of the bigger guys in any gym I walk into. Um, I'm very aware of that. That doesn't go to my head or anything, but I noticed nothing negative about testosterone. I noticed nothing at all that made my mentality worse. I would say that I would be less of the person I am had I not went on PEDs. So I can confidently say that I think testosterone in a controlled setting where the doses aren't being abused for that individual is potentially a good thing, especially in today's climate where masculinity seems to be being put on a chopping block and criticized. Not telling anyone to do anything, definitely not telling anyone not to, that they should hop on to be more confident. I'm just sharing what I noticed. Things that I used next in my PED journey was Deca. Everybody's familiar with Deca if you're a bodybuilder. It's part of the Nandrolone family. I'm not going to educate on it. That's all stuff you can Google. That one I wouldn't say I've had negatives with. It does affect me mentally in the sense of it makes me very apathetic. Not depressed, not sad, just really apathetic. To the point where I notice it and I can't even help how apathetic I am towards others or people that I'm close to. Even my views of the world, like I don't care about things that I probably should at least care a little bit about. And I've directly noticed that one tying to that. That's any Nandrolone, MPP, which I tend to use more of now than I do Deca. Any of the 19 Nors, so we'll get into Tren on its own, but mentally I would say I think a lot of people that I've coached are affected by either Deca or MPP in almost a negative way, and they don't realize it or respect it enough. I feel like I put a lot of emphasis into my mental and my how I approach things. I think stoicism has greatly helped using and managing PEDs. You're altering your mental chemistry, whether you want to admit that or not. And I'm not here to act like I'm some scientific guru and I understand what's happening in terms of at a molecular level or with our chemicals in our brain. I just go off what I've experienced. But anything that you take, whether it's from your doctor or supplements off the shelf or anything that you consume, Netflix, YouTube, all these things, they all can potentially alter your brain to a degree. We just don't, we focus more on some things that alter it more versus others. So I think paying attention to what you're feeling and what you're noticing, and also understanding that might be, for me, I've just accepted that it's kind of part of what my big goal is these are the things that I'm going to experience, and it's going to shape the person that I've become and who I will continue to become. Talking more about different compounds, EQ, I didn't notice anything mentally that's ever been remarkable. I've had clients I've coached talk about anxiety that they feel. Can't say I've felt that. I don't feel anything noticeable with that from a mental standpoint. Um, Tren, I think, is the big common one that everyone's heard about. We've all seen memes about it. It seems to be the most glorified online. Here's what I've, experienced over the different years. I first started using Tren when I was 26. I keep mentioning my age because I think age plays a big role in your maturity towards being able to handle the mental side of PEDs. I would not have been capable to handle these things when I was 17, 18, 19, 20, 21. For me, 24 was a good age to start because I was in the working world. I had a career. I was, working a career where I had to make critical life-changing decisions for people. As a firefighter and a paramedic, so I had a lot of responsibility, and I think that played a role in my mental. So when I see young kids getting started on these things that work at Chipotle and have nothing else going in life and really haven't been exposed to anything mentally that they've had to develop mental strength through, I see potential issues. So if you're watching this and you're in that situation, or you just haven't had any mental exposure to life, I was exposed to people dying. I had friends die, before I started PEDs. I was, part of my job was dealing with people that were dying. So I was exposed to a lot of different things that calloused me mentally naturally before I got into PEDs, and I think that's played a role in how I manage the mental component of it. Back to Tren. It's more of, if you go looking for mental things, you'll probably find them. Here's what I've noticed. I'm quicker to be irrational if I don't control my brain. I am definitely ambitious, which is an aspect I love. I was pursuing and scaling my business during my contest prep in 2023, and a lot of people feel sluggish and don't want to do anything. I had trouble relaxing and doing nothing, and I can correlate that to when I added Tren into the prep. I'm super ambitious. I have goals. Basically want to take over the world, and that's what I like about it. It's a positive for me. I can control that and use that synergistically towards achieving what I want to achieve in life. Everybody has different perspectives of what they're going through. Some people are going to be angry, or say they're angry. In my experience, those people are probably angrier individuals off of it too. It's not the Tren that elicits the anger. It just is kind of an accelerant for something that's already there. You also have to think about the situations that you're putting yourself in when you're using Tren or PEDs in general. If I'm a bouncer at a bar or I work in the door at a club, that's probably not an environment where I want to be taking certain PEDs. And if I am, I just have to understand that I'm in an environment that could potentially make a situation go from 0 to 100 real quick. And how I react and how I respond is going to play a role in the outcome of that situation. There were a few situations when I was still a firefighter where I got tested, and I know my thoughts quickly were irrational, whereas they wouldn't have been if I wasn't using Tren. But I think, and then, continuing into things I've done, Masteron, either ester, haven't noticed anything mentally that's been remarkable to talk about. Primo, same thing. The DHTs, I think my body likes really well. I have no issues with mentally. Anavar, no issues. I like it, actually. I'm talking about all the things I've noticed mentally that may be construed as negative, but I like a lot of the things that I experience on PEDs. I like taking them. I like being on them. Halotestin is an oral that you'll see used at the tail end of a contest prep. That one, I will say, I've noticed increased aggression, the thoughts I have can come off a little crazy. I definitely have to count to 10 before I respond in situations. Um, but I love that feeling. And when we talk about, you know, aromatase inhibitors and maybe even SERMs and anything that we're doing that's going to lower estrogen and, getting to that point of a contest prep where estrogen's lower, I thrive there. I love feeling turned off and cold to the world. It sounds weird to say, but that's peace for me. On the flip side, I've had a few periods where I've had to adjust my adjust my cycle because of my estrogen was too high. Not many. I'm not very estrogenic, but during those situations, I noticed that I felt more irrational and less in control mentally. So that's something to take note of. If you are estrogenic naturally, or your cycle that you're using is causing a higher estrogen, you may need to manage that towards your individual setup. I could continue going through all the things I've done, D-ball, ment. Mainly, it's how do as a bodybuilder do I continue to make sure I'm taking care of my mental. We put so much emphasis on making our bodies strong because that's what bodybuilding is, or that's what performance is if you want to get outside bodybuilding. But I've seen guys that just can't hold it together mentally that are using PEDs, non-bodybuilders and bodybuilders. In my head, I label those guys as a problem. Girls too. Girls, there's a lot of different factors that go into it with women, but I've seen women who, whether people want to admit it or not, steroids are, they're desired. I don't want to call them addicting because it's not like certain other things in the world where you can't go without it. But it definitely can create a void in your brain of being without if you're off or you're cruising or whatever your situation is. Context is dependent on the situation, but I don't want to label it as a dark side, but it's just a side that has to be given attention to, and it has to be thought about. And I have a lot of these conversations in private with clients, especially my younger men. And that's where I always recommend stoicism. Stoicism, I think, when I picked that up when I was 26. And I think if I hadn't have found that and I hadn't been applying that for the last 7 years and continuing to use it as like my North Star, I don't think I'd have the mental I do to be able to handle the things I do on a consistent basis. You have to strengthen and callous your mind continuously. You have to do mental framework. Mostly you have to be self-aware and have the ability to step outside yourself while you're doing things. There's periods where I know that I'm off mentally in terms of what I'm doing, but I have to be there to do what I'm doing in that time, if that makes sense. It might be just part of my prep, it might be part of my off season. I do feel like I have a pretty good rein on it. And, PEDs don't control me. I live my life and make my own decisions. I just have to give them the respect that they can't alter my lens that I make decisions through. So, when I talk to you guys, the audience, if you have questions or experiences or, points to add to what I'm saying, just drop them in the comments. This is kind of an open-ended, just roundtable discussion, me getting some things out based off of discussions I have with clients and just things that I've kind of come to in my own head of, 9 years of consistently being on, and, this is my life. I don't see a period of my life ever where I'm off these things. there's a time period when competing comes to an end, and I probably don't run the harsher things, and definitely the amounts that I've used and use will go down. But I've kind of accepted that this is the life I want to live, is a life where I use PEDs in some way or another, even if it's just TRT at periods. I'm very okay with that because that it ties into who I want to be. It's also given me a mentality that I want to do as many things for my health as I can. I'm mentally driven towards being able to control my health in the best way possible, which I don't think would be present had I not got into PEDs. I think I'd be like your normal everyday American who pays very little attention to their health, or just enough to not maybe be worse off than other people type mentality. But you have to be prepared mentally for the things that you're putting in your body, and understand that there's a lot of good things that come from that. Everyone that I've worked with or talked to, or everybody likes the positives. Everybody likes how they feel in the gym. They like their strength. They like the aggression. Every male loves the libido and the increase in that. They feel powerful. It's like feeling like Superman. You have a cape on. You have to notice the other things too. Maybe you're insecure. Maybe you're irrational. Maybe you are anxious. Maybe you are having darker thoughts, apathetic thoughts, like I mentioned for me, that I get with Nandrolone. These things are, over time, they're taking a toll. Again, I don't base anything off of scientific literature, and I've read a few studies here and there, but I don't. This is off my experience, and then me listening to people who've done these things at more extreme levels and at higher doses, and for much longer than me too. So, the point of all this is just to stay self-aware, stay in tune with yourself as you're navigating these things. Over the years, I've noticed that PEDs some people just aren't cut out to do them from a mental standpoint. It might be nothing to do with their blood work and their physical health. It's that they mentally just can't keep it together when they're on. I think as an individual, you have to be able to identify that for yourself. But the mental side is such a broad thing. I don't want this to come off as a mental health video, because it's not. It's more of just making sure you're paying attention to doing things that strengthen your mental while you're taking things that potentially are disrupting the mental or potentially weakening it. Again, we focus on the body and strengthening the body and adding more muscle, but the mind leads the body. So if you're doing things to strengthen your mind, and that could be as little as just paying attention to where your mind's going week to week, month to month, year to year, then your body's going to then get stronger too, and you're going to be in an overall better place mentally, physically, and spiritually. So comments down below. What do you think? What have you experienced? What are some things you've noticed for yourself that you can't, maybe there's compounds you've learned you can't run based off the mental thing for you. If you're younger, ask questions, but also don't overthink. You're in control of the reality that you live in. Don't let too much content or too many other people tell you how you're supposed to feel. Or I think that's the big problem with PED conversations today, is a lot of it becomes dogma. And because somebody 30 years ago said this about this compound, and then 10 years later someone else said it, we just believe them as like gospel, that that's what's going to happen. That's not all it. So there's a lot more to it. You have a brain, use it, think for yourself. Don't forget about what the basics, the foundation of building muscle and being a bodybuilder is. It's not drug use, but because I know it's a part of it. You know, it's a big part of my life. It's a big part of my what I do. I've always been transparent about it. Not afraid to put out there what I do in terms of compounds. I avoid doses because it's just, again, I think younger people hear that and they run with numbers as a black and white, and it's not like that. But you know, I do think you have to be mentally strong, and you have to train yourself to be mentally strong over the years when you commit to running PEDs or pursuing a high-level bodybuilding goal or powerlifting goal or strongman goal or other, you know, goal within athletic performance, or just if you're using PEDs to better your life or improve your physical standing in a non-competitive setting. You know, there's a mental component to that too. So without rambling too much further on, again, like, share, comment, subscribe. Let me know what you thought of the video. Share it if you found value. Again, let's get some discussion going in the comments. We'll keep coming out with YouTube stuff every week. Let me know what you want to see. But KJ behind the camera, I'm Tommy Stiles. Until next time, we're out of here.